Hey, Colton, I totally don't have a family or anything.
You're lying to me.
How did you know?
People who tell the truth don't wear green.
What?
I mean, it was, your cats told me.
Traitor!
I didn't do anything. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, one day at a time, we come slowly closer to the release of the Sunbreak expansion for Monster Hunter Rise in the summer of what is now, this year, 2022. There are some things that we can easily expect to see, such as new monsters, a new map, new equipment, and a new story. But this is all sort of assumed to be a part of a Monster Hunter expansion. What about the less expected though, the less standard, the more personalized, the specific experience that is Monster Hunter Rise? Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be telling you my opinion of the 5 things that Sunbreak needs to do in order to be the game that we all want it to be. I love Monster Hunter Rise. It has my favorite combat system in a Monster Hunter game, if nothing else, and I want nothing more than to have even more reasons to play this game. So keep in mind that everything I say in this video is from a position of love and wanting this game to grow in the expansion in a way that doesn't just add things, but also fixes things that maybe should have been a bit different to begin with. That said, let's begin with the thing that you probably expected to hear first: armor for the Apex monsters. This has been a hot topic for months, and personally I think that it is a big part of why some people talk about the lack of content in this game. More than anything, this is the source of that topic. Because in Monster Hunter, when there is a new monster or a different monster, they have new equipment. That's just sort of how it's been for the longest time. And then in Rise, we got Apex monsters, which from everything that we can tell were meant to be the big, extra scary threats of Rise. And originally, they were only available in Rampages, but after the fact, they were released as solo quests on normal maps. And now, a while later, they are being re-released in extra hard versions. And along that entire journey, they have not had any equipment for us to make after defeating them. It completely removes half of the incentive of hunting. This is half of why we do this. More than that for some people, and it is sort of just one of the biggest disappointments of Rise as a game. And as a result, this is one of the things that Sunbreak could easily do to make the most people happy. One of the easiest changes they could make. Unless they go with some sort of radical change for the direction of the gameplay, we're probably going to get more Apex monsters in Sunbreak, though we'll have to see how they explain that in the lore. If said more Apex monsters come without armor, there will be a lot of backlash from the community at this point. If new Apex monsters come with armor sets, people will probably be reasonably happy, but the best way to repair this is, well, to give armor sets to every Apex monster in Master Rank, including the ones that we've already fought in High Rank. Sure, ideally, they would have like unique skills or even set bonuses to make them particularly interesting, but you don't even have to go that far. Just give us some sort of equipment worth farming for, you know what I mean? My second point of contention here comes, interesting, down to everyone's favorite monster on monster viewing experience.
There have been rumblings about some sort of turf war.
More specifically, the way that turf wars interact with wyvern riding. Turf wars are one of the coolest parts of the 5th generation of Monster Hunter. They are cinematic as hell and always cool to watch happen. But in Monster Hunter Rise, while the turf wars do exist, it feels like they rarely happen. And why is that? Well, that's because at the end of a turf war, the monster that loses enters the wyvern rideable state. After a monster enters that state, there is a long cooldown before they can enter that state again. During this time, if it is approached by a monster it would normally have a turf war with, the turf war does not trigger, and instead they just fight until the new monster becomes rideable, creating a cycle where they will never actually be rideable at the same time and thus never enter a turf war. To summarize the issue here, turf wars don't really happen in Rise by accident. You sort of have to purposefully arrange them, because if you just go about your business hunting normally, doing what you always normally do, you will create the situation I just said, which breaks turf wars, and then the turf wars won't happen anymore around you ever. The solution here, to me at least, is very simple, and it's actually reverting back to the way something worked in Monster Hunter World. Turf wars and wyvern riding just should not be attached to each other at all. Honestly, it doesn't even make a whole lot of logical sense either when you consider that normal wyvern riding is accomplished by using a lot of silkbind attacks. In other words, you are literally covering the monster slowly in silk until you reach the threshold. So why do turf wars trigger it automatically unless one of the monsters involved is a spider? If we remove the connection between turf wars and wyvern riding, turf wars should start happening dramatically more often, and in my brain, it just makes more logical sense to be disconnected in the first place as well. Another massive thing for them to put in Sunbreak is, well, an endgame. Obviously, that is an exaggeration. Rise did have an endgame. It was just extremely light and very open, and more than anything, it absolutely did not hit home with the community at large, and so it should change. I won't try to pretend that I have any clue what Capcom is planning to put in the game, and I bet that the system they are planning is better than anything I could ever come up with. I'm not a game designer, and more than that, I'm definitely not a game designer on the concept of endgames. I can come up with some cool monster ideas, some cool weapon ideas, because I play with those all the time. Endgames are something totally different. But if I could put my own 2 cents in, I actually really liked the idea that they were going for, that it was possible for you to get the best talisman in the game from killing a great Izuchi if that is just the monster that you wanted to hunt at the time. But as it tends to be with humans, people found the most efficient way to do it, and did that endlessly instead of just doing it the fun way. So my proposed solution is a halfway between Rise and Iceborne. Bring back investigations, tempered and everything, but make one crucial change. Remove the concept of tempered tiers affecting the quality of the reward, only the amount of reward. An Elder Dragon probably takes 2 or 3 times as long as your average lower middle tier monster in an endgame set, so make the Elder Dragon give 3 times as many rewards, but still the same quality of reward. That was the big thing with investigations in World and Iceborne, was that in order to get the decorations that you needed, you had to do the further in monsters. Rise saw this and went a little bit too far in the other direction. If we just make the reward changing based on amount and not quality, I think this solves everything, but this is just my tiny little idea. It would be silly to think that Capcom isn't way ahead of me on this one, and I personally expect to see an endgame system that will be unlike anything that we've seen in the past. After all, every Monster Hunter game likes to do it their own way, but I genuinely believe that the developers have heard all of the criticism about Rise, and that we'll have to see how they put into action this information in the expansion. Moving to another thing that I have slightly mixed feelings on then, the switch skills and silk binds.
Upgrades.
Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore this system. I think it's an amazing idea, and it has resulted in a number of extra playstyles in Monster Hunter that I am ecstatic to see just existing. But in a number of cases, some of the current switch skills are so much worse than the other option available that they just don't really get used. Ever. The idea of switch skills is to, at minimum, create something situational enough that you will want to use it for certain monsters and not want it against others. But there are some that are just unfortunately ignored by the majority of the community just always because of how big the disparity is between the options. And once that happens, it starts to feel like there isn't an option, it just is what it is. It's just a new move. It's not a choice, it's a new move replacing the old one. So a general pass over the existing switch skills to make sure that the options are balanced between each other would be pretty cool. But almost contrary to that as well, I want Sunbreak to have more switch skills. I know, I want it balanced, but also I want to have more, which makes it much harder to balance. Have my cake and eat it too. But that's sort of what this is. Switch skills is one of my favorite parts of Rise. It had one bad part of it. If they fix that bad part and add to the system further in the good ways, I will be ecstatic. Lastly then, we have Aptonoth. There isn't a single Aptonoth in Monster Hunter Rise, and if Sunbreak's going to succeed, there needs to be an Aptonoth somewhere. The actual last entry is the Rampage. This one is a bit hard because I don't really have the greatest concept of how to fix it at all. But put simply, the Rampage system is an idea that was really cool in theory and in practice left a lot to be desired. If you play a bowgun, oh man, they are one of the most fun things that you can do with that bowgun. But with a melee weapon, it was just sort of a clusterfuck of body parts squishing you, and then you hit a monster a bit, and then it literally fades out of existence in front of you. Then you go hit another monster, and the thing is, there were a lot of cool parts of the Rampage. The siege weapons are really cool, and there are a number of unique ones in here. The villager helpers was a cool system, but it is also almost impossible to fail a Rampage quest, which sort of makes the whole thing feel pretty hollow. Like you have to really be dying lots to actually have the stronghold fail and fall to damage. More than anything, I think a big solution for this, if we do bring the Rampage on into Sunbreak, which I think it would be sort of weird not to, considering how big a part of Rise it was, is to give us bigger strongholds. Like literally a bigger, wider, more open arena. Like we have so much movement in Rise between the wire bugs and the palamutes. So make us use that as players. Make the area massive. Spread things out a load. Make it feel less like a claustrophobic funnel and more like you're on a giant battlefield with hunters fighting monsters as far as the eye can see onto the horizon. This combined with higher stakes and a higher chance of actual failure. And I think the Rampage could start to go back in the right direction, but I think that system could use a bit more loving care to really get it nailed for Sunbreak. That's the general thing that I'm saying. All in all, I am really excited for Sunbreak. My complaints about Rise have been incredibly nitpicky in the grand scheme of things, and as much as all of these are things that I would like Sunbreak to do in order to change Rise or enhance the system from Rise in some way, I have a lot of faith that the team behind Sunbreak is going to create a monster hunting experience unlike any other, and one that I will never want to put down or leave behind. The skeleton of Rise that already exists, the combat that is there, is my favorite version of Monster Hunter combat that I've ever played, and it is up to Sunbreak to either add enough on top of that to make this my favorite Monster Hunter game, or fall short of that and simply sit atop of the pile of my secondary Monster Hunter loves. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.